Hi, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering lucky episode number 13 of the series, and the episode is called Which Witch is Which? And I remember as a child in elementary school, my teacher actually writing this phrase on the blackboard to help us distinguish what witch and which meant. So I thought that was a kind of cool piece of nostalgia. I wonder if anyone else has had the same kind of memory. If you do, give this episode a like. If you don't, give this episode a like. Regardless, this episode first came out on December 6, 1969, and it sees the gang lost on some swampland following a unsuccessful fishing trip where Freddy takes a shortcut that he's never taken before. Stopping for some directions, they run into a zombie, and then shortly afterwards, they run into a witch. This episode is a fan favorite among many, and the voodoo elements along with the zombie design were later seen in Mamba Wamba and the Voodoo Hoodoo. The sheriff in this one also kind of resembles the sheriff who we saw in the episode What a Night for a Night, and this is kind of unusual because usually every episode has a different sheriff. Is this a different sheriff? Who knows? I'd like to think he is though. Does this episode still up, or has the witch in this episode put a hex on our nostalgia? Let's find out. The episode begins with a zombie paddling a boat through some deserted swampland at night. Unaware of his presence, the gang, who are lost on a shortcut Freddy has taken, complain about an unsuccessful fishing trip. Worried that they'll get even more lost, Freddy stops to ask for directions from a man on the road. Shaggy pokes his head out of the window to ask, but soon realizes the man he is talking to is a zombie. Freddy drives off in a hurry, and they continue down the road they are on until they hit the small town of Swamp's End. There, inside a bait and tackle shop, they meet Zeke, who tells the woes of a zombie along with the witch.
I've seen the zombie you speak of, and the old witch that brought him to life with her voodoo magic. She showed up about 6 months ago.
The witch showed up 6 months ago and summoned the zombie from a spell. Ever since then, nobody has dared to enter the swamp, and everyone but Zeke and his friend Zeb have left town. Velma thinks the whole story is nonsense, and Freddy sends Shaggy and Scooby to Zeb Perkins' cabin to find out more. At the cobweb-filled cabin, Shaggy finds a voodoo doll of Zeb and returns to the rest of the gang. In the mystery machine, the gang explore for more clues and drive into the swamp to see what the zombie and witch are up to. There they see the zombie and witch paddling, but they disappear right in front of their eyes. Seeing some warning signs to sway them off of a swamp passage,
beware of the witch, go back.
Enter at your own risk.
they follow a trail to a witch's shack where they see 4 voodoo dolls of everyone but Scooby. As a side note, I wish someone would make these into toys. I would buy them for sure. Inside the shack, the witch appears and casts a hex on Daphne, who disappears. Cackling, the witch follows suit and vanishes herself.
You dared enter the swamp in spite of my warning signs. I think you meddlers must be taught a lesson in witchcraft.
Freddy and Velma discover a manually activated trapdoor that Daphne had been standing on, and they set off to see if they can find her. Following some footprints underneath the trapdoor, they are led to an abandoned riverboat. Outside the boat, they see the zombie's boat, along with a pole that has a shiny new metal tip on it.
I wonder what the tip is used for.
On the riverboat, the gang split up, and it doesn't take long for Scooby and Shaggy to run into the zombie, who is hiding in a deck box. The zombie chases Scooby and Shaggy until they successfully lose him with their typical costume games. Elsewhere, Freddy and Velma find Daphne locked inside a secret room, along with a winch, some power tools, and a cutting torch.
What would a witch want with a winch in a swamp?
Velma declares that she thinks she understands what's going on, and just like magic, the witch appears and flies at them. Dodging her, the 3 jump down an old coal chute. Scooby and Shaggy once again run into the zombie and disguise themselves as the witch, but the ploy doesn't work and the zombie gets his gruesome hands on Scooby. Shaggy tosses a Scooby snack at Scooby, giving him some courage to smack the zombie and shake free. As they run down the deck of the riverboat, the witch appears and the 2 are trapped between the zombie and the witch. Shaggy snags the witch's broom and jumps off the boat and tries to fly away, but instead he falls down into the airboat. Freddy, Velma, and Daphne tackle Shaggy thinking he's the witch because he's still kind of dressed up like the witch and has the broom, but they realize their mistake soon and everyone drives off on the boat to escape the witch and zombie. Before they can get too far, the witch is floating in the air and tries to stop them. The boat rams into the witch, where they discover the witch is just a dummy using a hot air balloon.
That's only a sheet painted with phosphorus to look like a witch.
Her head is just a balloon.
During their panic, Freddy somehow manages to get the throttle stuck, so Scooby tosses an anchor out to slow them down. The anchor does the job after it latches onto an armored truck, and this brings the truck to the surface of the swamp. Using a winch, Freddy brings the armored truck onto land where they find sacks full of money.
Money, money, money.
They now realize the zombie and the witch were searching for the truck and devise a plan to trap them. Naturally, the trap does not go according to plan, but in the end, the zombie and the witch are caught. After calling the police, they unmask the two, and it is revealed that Zeb is the witch and Zeke is the zombie.
Why, it's Zeb and Zeke.
They were the ones that hijacked the armored car and sunk it in the swamp.
Then they waited all this time till it was safe to look for it.
So they invented the witch and zombie act to keep people away.
The armor car was originally stolen by Zeb and Zeke years ago, and they just waited all these years so any interest in the missing car would die down. Then, to get some privacy, they used the witch and zombie disguises to scare the entire town away. The metal pole was used to help locate the car, as they forgot where they had sunk it. So if they used the metal pole to hit the car, you would get a metallic ping, which would let them know where the truck was. They also used smokescreen pellets to help the witch appear and disappear. The sheriff hauls the two off to jail, and the gang drive off in search of a new mystery. I give this episode an 8 out of 10. First of all, this is classic Scooby-Doo. This is, if you were going to show this episode to a first-time fan to tell them what Scooby-Doo was all about, this would probably be it, because all the classic tropes are there. You see the gang lost on the road in the Mystery Machine, and you get some cool-looking villains, and you get a really awesome plot, actually. This is probably one of the best Scooby-Doo plots villains have had in the earlier episodes that they could actually get away with. Like, this actually makes sense. Someone could probably have done this in the 60s or 70s, and no one would have blinked an eye, maybe. I'm probably stretching there, but that's, out of all the other plots, this was probably something someone could get away with. The episode just isn't perfect for me, which is why I give it an 8 out of 10. And that has a lot to do with the actual villains. The zombie's cool. The witch are cool. The witch looks cooler than the zombie, I think. The zombie just didn't do much for me. Maybe that's because we've seen him again in Mamba Wamba with the pink sweater. I don't know. But the zombie's not all that scary. The witch, I like her cackle and how she vanishes and reappears and all that and puts spells on people and stuff. That was kind of cool. Just not as cool as the spooky space kook or the green ghost we saw in earlier episodes. So that's kind of why I give this an 8 out of 10. And the humor, while prevalent, it just wasn't as charming as the humor we saw in the Mummy episode I just reviewed. And the spooky factor is turned up quite a bit, but I'd say it's turned up to 8. It's not like a full 10 for spookiness. One of my favorite scenes in this episode, though, is the scene where Scooby puts the pin in Shaggy's voodoo doll and Shaggy jumps, and then we just saw that Shaggy just kind of backed into a fork. I thought that was really funny. And this episode does have some classic set pieces like the abandoned town, Jeb's cobweb-filled cabin, the witch's shack, the dilapidated riverboat, and we get some cool tropes with Daphne getting kidnapped. Which just makes for a really cool episode. So 8 out of 10 for me. And that wraps up another episode. I only have 2 more to review. And next week we will be hitting the high seas with Go Away Ghost Ship. After I review the final episode, which is the Snow Ghost episode, I will be taking a break. And that will be, I guess, around December. And I will return in January, where I will premiere my review of all my Scooby-Doo Season 1 rankings. So I'll go through each episode and rank from my least favorite to my favorite. I'll be using my rankings. I'll be using your rankings. So I'll be factoring in views on my episodes along with likes. And I'll factor in a few other things that I've seen, some surveys and such from third-party Scooby-Doo fan websites and such. And I'll just kind of compare. So if you like an episode that personally, and I've reviewed it so far, be sure to give it a like. And until then, until next week, stay spooky.
You dared enter the swamp in spite of my warning signs. I think you meddlers must be taught a lesson in witchcraft.
I wonder what the tip is used for. What would a witch want with a winch in a swamp? It was big and creepy that brought you here, right?